Welcome back to the Terminal Exchange, the official podcast of Nussbaum Transportation, where we explore key issues and compelling stories in the trucking industry. I'm your host, Dayton Rumbled, and you're listening to episode 119, Heart and Home, on mission with the Baby Fold. Today, Clete Winkelmann, President and CEO, and Sam Guillory, Vice President of Development and Public Relations, joins me in the studio. The Baby Fold has been around for over 120 years. And faith and family is not the only thing that Nussbaum and the Baby Fold have in common. To learn more about the amazing story of the Baby Fold, please tune in to this featured exchange. Welcome back to the Terminal Exchange, the official podcast of Nussbaum Transportation. I have Clete and Sam with me today. Very excited to have you both here.
Thank you.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah, so very honored to have you come to our studio. So they are both from the Baby Fold. It's a local organization, non-for-profit here in Bloomington-Normal. It started off and has grown quite a bit. And so, Clete, you are the CEO and president.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been there in that position?
I just celebrated last week my 1-year anniversary.
Wow. Congrats.
So, yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
I've wanted to be part of this organization for, I would say, about 23 years.
Really?
Maybe 24 years now.
Yeah.
Because my history with the Baby Fold goes back that far.
Really?
Yes.
So it was on your watch list for that long?
Well, not necessarily on my watch list, but previous president and CEO, Dale Strassheim,
yeah.
and I was leading a United Methodist Children's Home down in Mount Vernon, Illinois, in southern Illinois,
yeah.
and he, myself, a leader at Cunningham Children's Home in Champaign, Chaddock Children's Home, which is over in Quincy, and then an organization in East St. Louis called Leslie Bates Davis Neighborhood House. We're all part of the United Methodist Conference, the Great Rivers United Methodist Conference.
Okay. Yeah.
And we came together and formed a sub-corporation to help with purchasing power by coming together as a group and still operating individually as separate corporations.
Got it.
So that's how I first learned about the Baby Fold. But actually, I knew about it when I went to school as an ISU student and would walk by the campus at Linden and Willow.
Okay.
And always wondered, what do they do there? That's such a bizarre
Interesting name.
Interesting name, bizarre name, which is a really great story. And what I've been told by our pastor on staff is that as Jesus or shepherds would watch over their flock, we watch over the kids. And those flock is a fold, right? Shepherd's fold. So we're the Baby Fold. And as orphans were shipped across the country in trains, it was the young ones that wound up here because all the older ones would be adopted along the way because they worked on farms.
Yeah.
But the younger ones made it all the way to the Chicagoland area. So there was an effort here locally to spring up an orphanage called the Baby Fold. And that's really our origin when we started in 1902.
Wow. And so there was that focus on babies and younger children.
Correct. Yeah, we do not fold babies, as everybody might think, but it's us watching over them as a shepherd would watch over their flock or their fold of sheep.
Wow.
So that has been our mission for that many years and will continue going forward forever.
The community came to know us as, they actually, believe it or not, the community gave us the nickname of the Baby Fold. The Baby Fold's been around serving kids and families right here in Central Illinois since 1902.
Wow.
But we didn't get the name. We didn't officially change the name to the Baby Fold until the 40s.
Okay.
Because the community saw wow, these people are taking children and they're finding good homes for these babies. They're caring for babies just like Jesus did for his flock. So they kept referring to us as the baby fold, and we went ahead and picked it up officially in the 40s.
Yeah, that's picking up on the cues, and you're like, okay, we should rename. And so that's really cool. And so I was looking into doing this episode, and we like to have people on that support, like our benevolence partners. So people that we support, and the baby fold is one of those, and it's gone back for I don't know how long. Has the relationship has
many
happened.
years. Many years. I can't give you an exact date.
I don't know
Maybe
either.
Sam might know that.
Yeah.
But I really believe the relationship began back in the Dale Strassheim times when Brett and Dale were close and friends.
Yeah.
Probably went to the same church. They were in the same community circles, etc. And that's when the relationship really solidified. And the support that we get from Nussbaum Trucking is amazing.
Yeah.
You guys are always on our minds, and either through philanthropy dollars, but from all the volunteer opportunities that you provide. You've even got, I think, a couple trailers on your lot here, filled with Christmas stuff. For our Festival of Trees. So, I mean, it's at so many depths and layers of support that Nussbaum Trucking provides us.
Yeah, and it's a two-way street because we are a for-profit company, but we want it to be something more than just a business, but how can we do good for the people around us? And so that reminds us why we're here, and we talked about this before, but having a strong why for what you're doing is really important for your day-to-day. If you don't have a strong why, and the Baby Fold and the other organizations we work with give us that why on why we're here and why we're doing this. So,
it's that sense of purpose and mission, right?
We need that. And so I was looking at having you on, and so I looked at the list of organization, and I saw Sam was vice president of development and public relations. So I saw PR, perfect. So I emailed her and I said, will you be interested in coming out, and possibly Clete if you could come too. And it worked out. So we're all here today. And so how long have you been at the Baby Fold, Sam?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the invitation. And we love connecting with our community partners. It's just something that's important to us as we continue to have the opportunity to share our story. I've been with the Baby Fold for 6 years now. So over that time, I've grown. I've gone through a few different roles, and I've been in a leadership position on our leadership team for 6 or 7 months now. And it's just been an amazing journey to be able to see the Baby Fold through the pandemic, for example. So see the Baby Fold grow through all these different milestones and opportunities, and then to have the opportunity that I have today to sit on our leadership team with that background and knowledge, and to be able to apply that and make sure that we are doing the best we can for as many children as possible in our community. So it's a really special opportunity that I'm grateful for.
Yep, and you're both in a strategic role within the Baby Fold. So
that's right.
You spoke on how you started off more working with kids, and now you're more in that strategic position. So that's a lot of your day-to-day roles and tasks.
That's right. Yeah. One of my very early interactions with Nussbaum was coordinating one of my favorite programs at the Baby Fold, which is our Christmas wish list. Christmas wish list gives community members the opportunity to adopt the Christmas wishes or Christmas wish list from the children that we serve. And Nussbaum is one of those donors. So I was able to provide you with different children's wish list, whether that was bedding or just basic necessities like underwear or whatever the hottest toy was, or a bicycle for that kiddo for that year. So that was some of my earliest interactions with Nussbaum, and just being able to grow through all that time has been really rewarding.
Yeah, that's really cool. So 6 years, and like you said, you saw it through the pandemic, and that's a big deal. And when you first said 1902. Sorry, 1902. When you first said 1902, I was thinking, like, wow, that is a lot to go through the Depression, like to endure through that, the Great Depression, and then all through the decades till today. That's quite a feat.
It's a journey.
We've had 12 decades of devotion to the kids and families that we serve here. So when we went through the pandemic or COVID, we joked, this isn't our first pandemic. Baby Fold's been here since 1902. So we've been through it before, and we'll get through it again because the community needs us, and we're never going to give that up.
Yeah, it is essential. Absolutely. And so I think that's cool to see that over time. So thank you again, and I think it'd be fun to start off with an icebreaker before we get any further. And we've been doing this as 2 truths and a lie. It's a general icebreaker game. So if you are ready or have 2 truths and a lie, we could do that. Yeah.
I'm game.
You're game?
As long as Sam doesn't chime in, because she'll know what she knows a little bit more about me than yourself.
Okay.
But I'm happy to play.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. And I think it's a fun thing to do. I like doing it. So
okay.
And for our listeners, try to guess which one is the lie. So if you're ready, you can go for it.
Sure. So just kind of share the story and okay.
Yeah.
So I have quite a background prior to being in social service. So a couple of these are really from prior to my working world, right? So I was a DJ in college, and
I could see that,
and did a lot of fun things here at ISU. Paying my way through grad school with a DJ company. Also a college football athlete. Played Division III college football out in Lincoln, Nebraska. Nebraska Wesleyan. And, one of my favorite meals in the world are potatoes. So I just absolutely love to eat potatoes in any way, shape, or form. Really, baked's probably my favorite. So those are my 3. You going to guess?
This is a good one. I don't know if Daniel has a thought, and Sam, you already know the answer. My first gut reaction is the potato, because the first 2 are very specific, and I feel like, I kind of want to say the potato. Is that
That's the lie.
It is?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. That's the first time I've ever guessed this on the first try.
Really?
Okay. Well, maybe I was too descriptive or something.
So, and you were college athlete.
Correct.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yes.
Football.
What'd
you play?
Inside linebacker.
Okay.
7 surgeries, 5 concussions later. I'm still walking.
Yeah.
But keep in mind I'm an old man, so this is many years ago.
Yeah.
And then that was fun. I'll never regret that. But I do say, if I had to do it over again, I probably would have chose to play college golf as opposed to football. Because it was a little less harming on my body.
Right, but you're okay today. But
after artificial parts in my legs.
Right, a lot of surgery. Yeah,
a lot of surgery.
Not fun, and a DJ too.
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Interesting. I keep saying that I'm going to get the DJ back for one of our events. Maybe Festival of Trees. I keep trying to get the DJ Clete back.
Get them out.
So for your local listeners that might be Bloomington-Normal centric, there was a couple different nightclubs here in town called Rockies, which is now where the Children's Museum is in Uptown Normal.
Yep.
I had the contract there and had several guys working for me there. And then I also did some things down at Bogies as well, which is where Epiphany Farms is at.
Wow.
So I had nightclubs, I do corporate events, I did class reunions, I did weddings, and on occasion I do a spot on WBNQ.
Oh, wow.
So
you had people working for you.
I made less money after graduating with my master's and moving to Chicago than I did when I was DJing in college.
Oh, that's funny. And I think that's really cool. I mean, that you were able to do all those gigs and do it so early on.
Yes.
And why'd you not want to continue?
Well, I just spent like 7 years in college. I don't think I wanted to continue to be a mobile DJ, right?
Well, I'm glad you transitioned. You wouldn't be here today if you were still a DJ. So,
but it was fun. But, you got to grow up at some point.
Sure. Yeah. Not a forever gig.
Right. Yeah. So being in front of a mic and those kind of things doesn't really shock me too much.
Good. Yeah. You kind of have to keep the party going.
Yep.
Make sure everyone's
keep
comfortable.
It going. Yep.
Yeah. That's a good disc jockey. So, yeah. Great. And Sam, did you have two truths and a lie that you'd like to share?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll try to stump us.
Okay. I have been to New York City to see the ball drop.
Okay.
On New Year's
That's
Eve.
a big day. All right.
I have fed a killer whale.
Okay.
And
Scary.
I have created a nationwide medical certification.
You created a nationwide medical certification. Wow.
All over the board.
That is all over the board.
I don't know the answer.
You don't know the answer. What do you think?
Well, I do know one is a truth, but the other two I'm not sure.
Okay.
What do I think?
Mm-hmm. If you had to guess.
Maybe the killer whale. I don't know. Well, but San Diego, SeaWorld's out in San Diego, so she's from San Diego.
You're right. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
She travels a lot. So the ball drop in
New York. The ball drop could happen.
It could happen.
The medical certification is so specific, though. I feel like that would... I don't know. Oh.
You got to guess.
I got to guess.
Okay.
All right. Let me go with the New York ball drop is the lie.
You're right.
Wow. 2 in a row.
2 for 2.
All right.
You're right.
This is my best I've ever done.
Like Clete said, I love traveling,
Yeah.
and that is on my list. I just haven't been there yet. Last time I was in New York, I got snowed in. It was Snowmageddon out there, so they had to call in the National Guard, and I got trapped in New York.
Oh, wow.
But I love traveling. I made the best of it. I had my staff with me, and I went out, and being able to explore the streets of New York when there wasn't a car out there.
That's pretty cool.
And impromptu snowball fights broke out over Broadway. It was really neat. And that's one of the things that Clayton probably say I'm known for. I try to make the best out of a situation and just really see the opportunity there. I think there's always a silver lining. So even though I was snowed into New York, and the only place I was open was a pizza joint, I was able to have a good time and just make those lifelong memories.
That's really cool. So you were there, but you didn't see the ball drop.
I was there. It wasn't for New Year's.
Yeah.
Yep. So I was there for a medical conference because in a prior life, what I did was I traveled across the nation lecturing to physicians and their staff on how to better manage their practice. And during that time as a podiatric office manager, so I treated the feet. During that time, colleagues of mine and I discovered that there was a credential missing. You had a certified medical assistant and you had a physician, but there's nothing there in the middle for that practice administrator or office manager. So we worked with the nation's leading provider in continuing medical education and created a nationally recognized medical certification.
That's pretty neat, and that's quite the job change too, to go from that to working here.
I went from feet to nonprofit, so just a little bit of a change.
Yeah, a little bit.
But being able to provide a holistic treatment, making sure that our clients, instead of my patients, are cared for in all aspects of the term versus just that physical treatment was really an improvement. And one of the reasons that I came to the Baby Fold originally and during my time at the Baby Fold, it's actually assisted me with my faith journey as well.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, when we're able to sit down and when we can start off a meeting with prayer, or when we can create an entire appeal for a marketing piece based around scripture, that was really special for me as I grew in my faith journey as well.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
What church do you go to?
I previously went to Vale Church here in town, and I love my small group because my small group actually, everyone went to Vale previously, but now we go to different churches, so we're able to come together and talk about well, what was happening this weekend at your church? What was happening this weekend at your church? So we're actually being able to get even more perspectives to the table.
That's
which
really
is
cool.
Really neat.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And Clete kind of hit the nail on the head when I have fed a killer whale. That's a fact. And it was at SeaWorld in San Diego. And I love... Shamu?
Shamu?
Not the original. Not the original. But I love animals. That is my passion.
Yeah.
So I have fed a killer whale. I have fed a rhinoceros. I have been bit by a flamingo.
That's interesting.
There are some animals you should touch and some animals you shouldn't.
You don't touch. Flamingos, no.
I guess not, no. But I was able to pet and to feed a rhino too. So I enjoy hanging out with them. I've swam with stingrays and sharks and turtles.
Wow. This is traveling, right? Not at the zoo.
Not at the zoo. No.
And not at the baby fold.
No. Not at the baby fold. What do you guys got going on over there?
We have an aquarium.
Yeah.
I was say we have some therapy pets, but it's a gecko and a hamster, so not too interesting over there.
Yeah. Okay. So you are quite the traveler. You've done a lot of things.
I enjoy traveling because I think that it's important to realize what you need in life to provide that respite or a refresh and to refocus you.
Yeah.
So during my busiest time of the year is all around the holiday season. We're hosting the largest holiday fundraiser in Central Illinois, the Baby Folds Festival of Trees.
Yeah.
We're serving over 800 children with our Christmas wish list program.
Yeah.
So during the holidays, it's all hands on deck. But Clete knows come January, I need to take a vacation so I can reset. And I think it's important to know how you personally reset and what keeps you at your best level.
Yeah.
I make sure that I try to promote that with my team as well. So that way you can continue serving at the best level of yourself.
Yeah, that's cool. And so switching from medical field and then going to this, I'd be interested to hear about the why. Why did you come to the Baby Fold? And for both of you, I'd be curious to know. So why did you come to the Baby Fold?
When I started off at the Baby Fold, it was really a challenge for me was nonprofit because after a decade in the medical field, I know how to make a profit. I was good at for-profit. So that was a complete mindset change for me. And so that took some time to understand the nuances there of that nonprofit organization. But driving past that every day, like everyone else has mentioned, and I have a personal connection as well. My mother was adopted.
Really?
And she, to this day, she has not had the opportunity to connect with her birth parents. So I understand personally from what she tells me the struggles that she faced, the internal battles that she is struggling with because she doesn't know that aspect of herself. So then being able to connect and provide opportunities. I had a speech impediment when I was younger. I was held back because you could not understand me. I had such a severe impediment. I would tug on my teacher's shirt because I wouldn't speak. I figured you can't understand me, so what's the point? So when I chose that communication path, a lot of times I would just get ignored or shrugged off, like go away. And that was my form of communication. So then I fell behind in school because I wasn't getting that attention that I needed. And we serve a lot of children here at the Baby Fold who also have a different communication style, and we provide them with different ways that they can communicate. So to be able to give a voice to the voiceless is so important for me.
And that really resonates.
It absolutely resonates because I remember a time where I could not communicate my needs and people could not understand what I wanted, and I was ignored because of that. And I fell behind because of that. So when I'm able to make sure that our students have what they need, it truly resonates with me.
Wow. And it makes sense. It's about getting the child to grow up to be a successful person, fully developed, and that makes a lot of sense.
Teachers are amazing because everyone just communicates differently. So if we can make sure that we're giving this child the same opportunity other children have, but maybe giving them like an iPad so that they can communicate on their iPad, or giving them a communication board so they can point to pictures to communicate that way. Then you're giving the gift of speech to a child. And when I'm able to hear how a child was finally able to tell their parent, to tell their mom, I love you. Oh, tears everywhere. Yeah. Everyone's crying. It's such an accomplishment because that was something that was not able to happen before. So when you give someone the gift of speech, you're giving them freedom, you're giving them independence, you're giving them the ability to advocate for themselves.
Yeah,
and I've been there in the past, so I can relate to that.
Yeah, you don't take it for granted.
Absolutely not. No. So it's been a interesting journey going from a severe speech impediment and over a decade of speech therapy to lecturing across the country.
Yeah.
Now you can't get me to shut up. It's the opposite problem today.
And now you're in PR, and that's huge. Yeah, you do a good job at that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Clete, what about yourself?
Sure. So I was sharing with you earlier, Dayton, that, in about 2001, I was leading the United Methodist Children's Home down in Mount Vernon, and I was there 9-10 years as CEO, and the only reason I left there is to return back to Central Illinois, where I'm from, and was leading an organization in Peoria, and which is my hometown. And but what I've come to realize. And again, that was 2009, right? So between 2009 and 2023, when I joined the Baby Fold, one of the things I've come to realize is that I really missed working for a faith-based organization.
Yeah.
It really changes the culture of an organization when you bring him into the equation. It is not bottom line driven only, right? Being in Peoria, I had a lot of Caterpillar executives.
Sure. Yeah.
They were very bottom line oriented, right? But being part of a faith based organization just adds another level. So before I joined the Baby Fold, I was in Fargo, North Dakota. So any drivers up in North Dakota, be safe up there. I know winters can be challenged going across 94.
Yep.
But
you're right. We go to Fargo quite a bit.
Really?
We do loads to Fargo. So.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. And, they shut the interstate down more than I think I've ever seen in my life up there. But anyway, I was up there for 3 years, and when this opportunity came up, when Diane Schultz announced her retirement, my network here locally started reaching out to me and said, "You've got to come back." And these are colleagues of mine that are part of other United Methodist organizations, and I put my name in the hat, and. It happened. But why did I do that? Why do I care so much about the Baby Fold? It's reputation, it's history, it's longevity, it's faith-based, it's the quality of services that they provide. It's the scope, it's the reach, it's the continuum of care. It's an organization unlike any other organization I've led. And that's really the why in which brought me back to Central Illinois. The winters in Fargo helped me make that decision, helped me and my wife make that decision.
Yeah.
But I don't think we would have come back for any organization. It really was about the Baby Fold.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And you're a Redbird, so
I am
kind of felt like coming back home, maybe a little bit.
It is. I still find it kind of interesting driving to work every day through campus, and where I spent so many years of my life. It's changed a lot, of course, but it's still very interesting, very fulfilling to kind of be back where it began, if you will.
Yeah.
So.
And there, like you said, there's a rich history there with the Baby Fold, and I think that's a really significant thing. And but yeah, campus has changed a bit too. There's the Discovery Museums there, and Uptown has completely changed.
The buildings. So I mean, every place I lived when I was here at school off campus is gone.
Really?
They've torn them all down, which indicates what of a dump I used to live in, right? But now they're all big complexes and apartments. But a beautiful campus, continues to grow. We're really fortunate to have first ladies of ISU on our board of directors. So Larry Dietz, Marlene Dietz is on our board of directors.
Really?
And then Rosemary Tarhuli, the first lady, current sitting first lady.
Wow.
Dr. Tarhuli's wife is on our board of directors as well. So, not only do we sit in proximity to ISU, but we're very embraced and very connected to the university.
Yeah, that gives me a greater appreciation of the Baby Fold too, just even knowing that and how connected to the community, staying faith-based. And yeah, that's really cool to hear that. So I mentioned that history. If you don't mind sharing the history of the Baby Fold, how did that happen? 1902. What did that look like?
I'm gonna let Sam take that.
Thanks. So the Baby Fold all started from one woman's dream to care for local children.
Yeah.
That woman's name was Nancy Mason. So Nancy and her husband Alan, they came here to Normal, Illinois. Same reason a lot of people do. They wanted a better opportunity for their children. They wanted their children to go to what is now known as Illinois State University.
Yeah.
And that's why they came here to Normal. And by the time her children went and Nancy was growing old, she started to think about the future and what she wanted to do and the legacy that she wanted to leave behind. What's going to be your legacy when you enter into that next phase? And so Nancy decided to open her home up to serve the local or active and retired deaconesses. Now, a deacon's a church lady for those people who may not be familiar. And that's how the Baby Fold began. So you might be thinking, okay, how do we go from a nursing home to a nursery? That's a pretty big change there. And our very first home, Nancy Mason's home, is again a connection to ISU because what used to be known as the Alamo Bookstore, that's where I got all of my books when I went to ISU. That parking lot right there, right between one of the complexes and the Alamo, that was our very first home. And it was a 9 or 10 bedroom home that Nancy Mason dedicated to us and left behind for us.
And that was her home?
That was her home.
Her personal home.
That was her personal home. So the Baby Fold started off in a 9-bedroom personal home that was left behind to care for local children. And during this same time, again, we're talking 1902, that is also when the railroads were just laid across the United States. And we were facing a epidemic at the time, or a challenge, especially on the East Coast, and that was abandoned and orphaned children. In New York especially, the streets were filled with these parentless children. So someone got to thinking, okay, we have this brand new mode of transportation. We have this problem. Let's put the two together and see what we can do. And that's where Orphan Trains began. So Orphan Trains would travel westward across the United States, stopping at each stop, and the children would get off. They would line up tallest to shortest. So I am always on the end because I'm short and I know that. And how adoption worked back then is families would go out and say, I'll take you, not you. That is how adoption worked back then. So like Clete was saying, the children to get adopted in the first children to get adopted were those big, strong boys because, well, that looks like free farm help to me, okay? You're going to be able to tend the cattle. You're going to be able to help out on the farm. It's free labor. So that's who got adopted first. After our big, strong boys were adopted, the next children to get adopted were then the older girls because you got a built-in babysitter then, a cook, a cleaner. You have someone who can take care of the littles and take care of the house as well. So you're seeing these benefits here. So then the children that were left to get back on that train, stop after stop, again and again, were the children who seemed to not have a benefit. We're talking sibling groups, babies, infants, minorities, anyone with a disability. However, the saying goes, blessed is the child that made it to little old Normal, Illinois, because our deacons, the deacons of the Baby Fold, opened their arms up wide and invited everyone into the fold. So that is how the Baby Fold began and switched then from a nursing home to a nursery. But we weren't just caring for these children on the orphan trains. Our community realized, oh, wow, there's some good ladies here who know how to find good homes for these children. So in the morning, it was common practice. You'd wake up and you go out front to check the step. Because is there a baby on the doorstep this morning, or a baby in the wheelbarrow, a baby on the bushes? That's normal. These are things that have happened in our time. Because the baby fold was known as this place that will care for your child. So we were caring for children from far and wide, and right here in our own community. And that relates back to how at that time our name was the Nancy Mason Home for the Aged. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
Not quite.
And the community started referring to us as the baby fold, reference to Jesus as the Good Shepherd. So in the 40s, we took on that name and just rolled with it. And we've continued to this day. And like Clete was saying, it's so funny when we go out into the community, because the very first question, or what we say is, we don't fold babies. It's not baby origami at the baby fold. But when you have an organization that's been around since 1902, everyone knows of the baby fold. They just don't know what the baby fold does. So that's why we're so grateful for opportunities like these, where we can explain that a little bit more.
And that's why we're here talking about it. It sounds like adoption has changed quite a bit, too, since those beginning, where people would just call, say, like, hey, taking you, or was there paperwork that went with that?
They would show up to the train station and just take a child. In the very early ages, when our second superintendent came, again, deacons that were assigned to us, she brought with us what's known as the baby fold's first baby, Baby Harry. Baby Harry, who's our very first child, he was found in a basement in Chicago. So that's a little bit more of our history. And throughout this time, there wasn't the best record-keeping system. It's the early 1900s. They're doing as good as they can. So when one of our newer, more recent superintendents came in, that's Reverend and Mr. William and Gwendolyn Hammett. They entered into the baby fold later on. They decided that they were really going to update our record keeping system and make sure that we had proper records for all of our adoptions. So in addition to creating a proper record keeping system for the baby fold when they came, they also are credited with really revolutionizing adoption laws across the state. They connected with state and government officials to make sure that here in Illinois, our children who were adopted were getting the care and the attention they needed. So we're truly blessed to have such a rich history with so much community impact. And we've always been, I'd say, the baby fold's always been a pillar of the community, and the community's always been a pillar of the baby fold. Because just like we looked out front to see if there was a baby on the doorstep, we'd also get some eggs or some milk donated. We got a cow donated at one point in time, because our community, our community knew that the baby fold has always been there for kids and families, and the baby fold always will be. So they made sure that they connected with us and provided us with what they could back then. And obviously philanthropy looks a little bit different today. We don't have a cow on the doorstep anymore, but we still have amazing partners like Nussbaum who are investing in the lives of local children and family through the baby fold.
I think what stood out to me with that story is how it was the people that were forgotten about, that maybe were passed along.
That's right.
And to see that and echoing Jesus, what he did,
That's
and
right.
he welcomed all
the least of these.
The least of these, absolutely. That's what he does. What he does. So I really appreciate that.
And it's so neat because in that day and age, if you had a black child and a white child right next to each other eating together, at that time it was considered scandalous. You didn't do that. But that's not the way it was at the baby fold. The baby fold has always had a focus on being inclusive, and no matter where this child comes from or what they look like, they are deserving of love, and we're going to make sure that they find a loving family to take care of them, and that's continued to today. That's just one of our values that have been instilled from the very beginning. So we have amazing historic photos. I appreciate the ones who came before me. They did amazing fundraising and marketing even back in the day. But we have historic photos where you have prayer time. All of the children gather together and praying together. We have one of our famous photos is called Cookie Hour, and it's all of the children on the front step because the community would donate cookies for them. And how to get 20 toddlers sitting still enough for that long to take a photo, I'm impressed.
I don't know how they did that.
Right?
And it is a part of the community. There's the Hammett School right there. You mentioned the name.
That's right. So now you're starting to know how some of our buildings got their name.
Yeah.
We have Mason Hall from Nancy Mason, who donated her home.
Yeah.
And then Tompi Asher was sent in to be a temporary replacement from the Deacon Societies. Mm-hmm. But Tompi's replacement ended up lasting well over 30 years. Mm-hmm. So then we have Asher Hall. Mm-hmm. So as you learn about our history, some of our names of Hammett School, Asher Hall, these names start to make sense because of the amazing women who built the foundation for who the Babyfield is today.
Right, yeah, making it what it is today.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
leaving
amazing.
their legacy.
Yeah,
exactly. It all started with one woman's legacy, wanting to care for local kids and families. And the amazing thing is that continues to this day, where we have donors reach out to us and just, what do you want your impact to be? What do you want your legacy to be? Mm-hmm. And the Babyfield can help make that legacy come to life and make sure that what you leave behind is serving children you will never know for generations to come.
Yeah. And it's like, what is a legacy? Like, what is that thing that we want to leave? And
exactly.
It makes you ask, like, what do I stand for?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. And the mission, vision of the Babyfold?
Yeah, sure. So the mission of the Babyfold is that we build positive futures with children and families while reflecting Christian principles of love, hope, and healing. And the vision is transforming children's lives through strong family and community partnerships. So you can see where our vision really is alive, right? And of course, you see our mission play out every day. You know, the work that our staff do, that's really our mission at alive. You know, transforming these children's lives through those principles of love, hope, and healing.
Yeah.
So it's a very powerful mission and vision statement.
And you got to stoke that fire, keep bringing it back. And I heard that you'll get out of the office occasionally and play with the kids at recess.
I'll tell you a funny story. So I started June 5th of last year, and I think it was about a week after I started, the extended school year kicked in. So there's a break between the spring and then the summer school, right? Well, when I started, school was out.
Yeah.
So the first day of extended school last year, the kids came out into the yard, and my office is referred to as the fishbowl because it's 3 sides of glass. So everybody all over campus can look into my office, and I can't hide. Everybody sees what I'm doing all the time. Well, I also can see everything going on too. So boom, kids. Well, what did I do? I got out of my office because I was doing something, I don't know, probably looking at a spreadsheet or reading a document.
Yeah.
I said, kids are here. I got to go and meet them. So I'm out playing in the yard with them, walking through the school. Just you know, even though I'm in the administrative role, it still doesn't change the passion that burns inside of me to help kids. You know, our staff do a wonderful job at helping the kids. Unfortunately, I'm not in that day-to-day role. My job is to provide them the resources they need.
Right.
But it still doesn't change the passion I have to impacting kids' lives.
And so you got out there and scored a couple touchdowns.
Well, I don't know if I scored some touchdowns. I might have played some catch with them or something. But yeah, they'll throw a football around. Or, you know, I'll play frisbee with them. Or the other day, I was watching them do a slip and slide. I did not go out there to do a slip and slide, but it was sure fun to watch them doing slip and slide. It's just fun. Right, it's just fun. That's our mission. That's the mission. We're changing those kids' lives through our relationships,
transforming lives, and to the least of these, the open arms, and I think that's really really amazing.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the mission too, you'll hear that we transform the lives with the children and families. That one little word, that's something, believe it or not, that's just changed within my time at the baby field within the past 5 to 6 years. And I think that's so important because it talks about how we're going to come alongside you. We're going to come alongside our clients, and we know that we work together.
Yeah.
We're not telling them what they should or should not be doing, but we're going to work together. First, acknowledge your strengths and acknowledge what you're doing wonderful, and then we'll talk about and point out some areas for improvement as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like when we approach it in that collaborative forefront, I think we have a better result than in the end. So I think that's really special.
The with. Yeah.
We're going alongside, walking alongside our children and families, again, just like Jesus did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walk alongside.
Yeah. With together. Yeah. Well, we touched on a couple of the services, but it would be great if you could share what are those services that the Baby Fold offers. And you said that the community knows the name.
Right.
What is the Baby Fold? What do you do?
Yeah, so we just recently reorganized the organization for a couple different reasons. But I think one of the reasons Sam's excited about the reorg is because it makes it easier to explain what we do as an organization.
Yeah.
So we really have 4 distinct areas of programming. Okay, so we have academic services. So in academic services, we offer Hammett School, K through 12 plus, because kids with IEPs can stay in school up to their last day of their 21st year.
Okay, yeah.
So at the age of 22, they have to end education. So these are kids that come to us from all over communities throughout Central Illinois. We have children coming from Streeter, Ottawa, LaSalle, Peru. The local districts cannot meet their needs, okay? So that's why we fit into what's called a non-public special ed facility. So our kids are primarily kids with communication and autism disorders, developmental disabilities, and some emotional mental health issues. Okay, so K through 12, about 130 kids that we serve on a daily basis during the normal school year. Excuse me. In addition to Hammett School, in academic services, we also have community schools. Community schools is a partnership we have with Unit 5 where we embed case workers, care coordinators in 2 different schools here in Normal. And we're really helping prepare those kids for education. So we're dealing with all their other issues that family may be challenged with. You know, we know that if a kid's not fed, clothing, heat, cooling, sleep, we know that they're not going to learn. So our job is to really address those other issues. Okay.
Think of like a spoken wheel when it comes to our community schools of that center is the community schools coordinator, our social workers who are embedded in public schools, and they are the connecting point between these community resources and home and school. So we're making sure that that connection is there.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
So outside of academic services, then we have preventions, early childhood prevention services.
Okay.
So in early childhood prevention, we offer our Healthy Start program, which also includes a doula service, and then we have Caregiver Connections. Now, what those two distinct programs are, I'll start with Caregiver Connections. We know that we serve daycare centers throughout maybe 25 counties throughout Central Illinois. And what we do in those daycare centers is we provide guidance and consultation to those daycare centers when there's a child that's at risk of being kicked out of daycare because of either behavioral or mental health issues. Because we know when that happens, there's a domino effect. Parents can't work, all kinds of things happen, right? So we go in there with our therapist and we provide guidance, consultation to the daycare itself to help maintain that kid in daycare.
Okay.
A
very important thing.
Very important thing.
I can see that. You said the domino effect.
The domino effect. That's Caregiver Connection.
Okay.
Then we have Healthy Start, which includes some doula services. So that's really about starting when a child is in utero, and at that third trimester, we get involved with families that are at risk, and we work to prepare the family system for that delivery, working on attachment, bonding, and then we follow post-birth with home visiting, where our home visitors go in the house and are working with developmental milestones, making sure well-checked visits are happening, help guide the mother, the family unit into how to raise that child in the best way possible. It's kind of like, your default owner's manual, right? Okay. Our staff are really helping walk side by side with that family unit to do the best that everyone can do so that child gets launched and has that very successful early childhood.
Okay. So just helping for any of those questions that come up.
Anything that comes up. Right. Every visit we bring a developmental toy to the child, and so it's really focused on prevention, developmental issues, and then support of the family unit. Okay. So that's our early childhood prevention area of programming.
So we said there's education and then early childhood prevention.
Yep. Okay. And then we get into intervention services. We do foster care, 2 levels of foster care, specialized and traditional. And then we do what's called intact family services, which is where families have come to the attention of the authorities, DCFS, and those issues haven't become so significant where we have to remove the child. So the child stays in the home, and we wrap services around that home environment to support that family so that that child doesn't have to be removed. That's a voluntary program that's funded through DCFS. It's where you get the name Intact. We're trying to keep families intact.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's our prevention or intervention area of programming. And then our last is post-adoption support, where we have 2 really cool programs. Post-adoption, which is, while we don't do adoptions anymore, we support families who have adopted with family therapists that go into the home and help that family integrate that child into their family system. Okay? And we're doing that, again, in like 27 counties in central Illinois.
Wow.
We have like 26, 28 family therapists that are doing this work. They're housed in Urbana and Springfield and here in Normal as well. So, we're really got them strategically placed to be able to cover that area and territory. The other area of programming in there is what's called respite. And what respite is, and it's really cool, we have multiple levels of respite, but it's again allowing the parents the ability to take a break, okay? Where maybe as a parent myself, there are times when you just need a break, right? You'd call a babysitter. Well, a lot of these families, because of the challenges some of these kids have, they can't really have a babysitter or may not have one available. So what we have camp. We use East Bay Camp out at Lake Bloomington.
Cool.
Which is owned by the Illinois Great Rivers Conference of the United Methodist Church. And we do camp weekends so that parents can bring their kids for a camp experience over the weekend, free of charge. Okay. And kids, what's really cool about the program are these are kids who have been adopted. Well, now they're meeting kids just like them who have been adopted too. So there's some peer support going on. They learn that they're not the only ones in the world that are adopted. But it also gives the parents an opportunity to take a break. We also offer that service in home where we'll do it in a shorter period of time, maybe a couple hours or those kind of things. So again, it's really designed to allow that family unit to be as healthy and whole and fresh and really giving all that they can to those kids when they're there, but also giving them a break because parents need a break sometimes, right? And then the other area which is not really a program. It's not really a division. It's really more just who we are and what we believe.
Sure.
Is just our training and education that we do. Really, our first and foremost focus is internally with our staff, making sure our staff have the skills and the knowledge to do the incredible work that they do. Yeah. But we also feel it's our obligation as an organization to share that with others. So we have a center of excellence located on West Market Street, and we provide training to our staff there. Yeah. But we also are getting ready to start launching a series of trainings for the business community. And understanding the impact that trauma has on companies. That's going to be our first one. It's called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And we know from research that's been done at the federal level that people who experience significant amounts of trauma have poor health outcomes.
Sure.
Well, we train on this, okay? So we want to give that information to the business community, because I don't know if every business leader understands how that's hitting their bottom line.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that be through health insurance or absenteeism or, all those kind of things that play out when people are experiencing that.
Right.
So while that's not a division, it's certainly a focus of what we do, because it makes us better internally, but it also is our obligation to share that with the community, and that community can be business leaders, but also other professions doing this work.
Yeah.
So that's the baby fold in its continuum of care in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. That, like you said, that is a nutshell, because there's a lot.
There is a lot.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot.
And I made a connection with you said the East Bay camp. Every year there's a race, the Lake Run. And I've done that, and I see the signs. They put out signs, the baby fold, when they're there for the camp. Yep. They'll say, you'll run and not be weary. So I see that, the baby fold, I'm always encouraged.
So now you connected those dots.
I connected those dots. I was like, that's the camp that's going on.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Right at East Bay. And like you said, this is something that touches, it's really important to have healthy people, and to have a child who can learn to play with others, and just those developmental things that are really important.
Right.
And so these things and the training and the services, I can see how it can impact the bottom line for companies as people grow up, and just family units. The impact is pretty broad of this. And so I think it's just a reminder that this is an important thing that is good to focus on.
Let me share a couple additional thoughts.
Yeah.
I like to put this out there when I speak to, and I think your audience will find this interesting facts. So, you think of the baby fold. While we're nonprofit, doesn't mean we can't make a profit. Okay, we no margin, no mission. But I like to give some business info. So we're strong, about 260 staff, and our operating budget is about $22 million, and about $15 million of that is payroll. So we're really investing in the community with our staff as well. So I think it's always important when I speak to leaders in communities that they understand that we're in the top 20 employers in McLean County.
Wow.
The baby fold has historically been part of McLean County's top 25 employers.
Yeah.
We have hovered between, 150 to 200 employees at any given time.
Wow.
So the baby fold, in addition to having that really long history, everyone has some connection to the baby fold. You say the baby fold, and either somebody knows someone who works at the baby fold today or has worked at the baby fold in the past. And as you can see with our different areas of programming, our programs have changed throughout the year. It's not that 9-bedroom home that it was back in 1902. We're not an orphanage anymore, but that's the baby fold's legacy. When it comes to legacy, our legacy is the baby fold continually evolves to meet the emerging needs of the community. Because if we didn't do that, then the baby fold wouldn't be here today 120 years later, still serving children and families in need. We opened up within Hammett Schools, within the baby fold's Hammett Schools, we opened up one of the very first classrooms serving children on the autism spectrum. We are providing services that were not even known back when we opened our doors. So that's the one thing that remains consistent, is that we will continue to evolve and introduce new services like our doulas. That's one of the newest things that we've started, and we just started our doula services just last year, because we want to make sure that our community and our kids and our families are getting the best care possible.
That's cool. And the needs continually will change.
That's right.
They will.
You know, and the traumas that people experience, and those things will look different in next 5-10 years, and learning to adapt and provide the best service. So
and that's where our training and consultation services come into play, where we're making sure that we're bringing the community together to share our expertise. We feel like that's part of our mission. We want to make sure that there are more educated eyes on children, so more children are taken care of. And we can't do that if we keep that all internally. So when we're able to collaborate with other organizations and other agencies and offer trainings or bring in renowned experts on a topic, or have our experts share their knowledge on a topic, we're just making sure that we're making Central Illinois an even better place to come, to live, to grow, to build a family here. That's what it's all about. It's all about community, and we want to make sure the kids and families in it are safe and sound. So that's where that training and consultation piece comes into play as well.
A big aspect of all those areas is the training. And so we covered the services, talked about the 4: education, intervention, the early childhood services, and post-adoption services. And we've talked about the why. Why are strong families important? Why does that matter? We're talking about this, families. Why does it matter?
That makes me think of our early childhood services, Healthy Start and Caregiver Connections. When we're able to build resiliency at a young age and teach a child to self-regulate, then these healthy children grow up to be healthy adults. Think in some workplaces, or maybe, you just go to the shopping mall, you go to the grocery store, and some of us see some adults and we're like, wow, that adult could even learn how to self-regulate a little bit better. Well, if we're teaching those techniques and those tools at a young age and building resiliency when a child is young and a family is young, then they are going to grow and build in those skills. And again, that's going to be creating a healthier community. We're going to then have healthy parenting techniques, a healthy family lifestyle. We have family support and engagement groups, so many different opportunities to make sure that these families understand the best way to communicate and to interact together, so that way there is healthier families, healthier outcomes, and less involvement with other entities such as DCFS as an example. So you're building a healthier community so that way your children, if there's any listeners out there that have kids, we are making sure with our preventative services that the public schools, those public classrooms, there's not as much interference, because we're teaching those self-regulation techniques. We're making sure that when you go out, our community as a whole is just a stronger community from these tools and techniques that we're instilling.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. You have any thoughts on that, Clete?
She did a great job speaking to it. The world is full of challenges, okay? And I see our world getting more and more complex with challenges, okay? And to be a parent in today's world is very different than being a parent 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. because of how our world is changing. And so when there's organizations out there that are focused on trying to help parents be better parents, helping families become better family units through whether that be training, education, whether that be some type of service, the hope is that we're going to see, as Sam said, a better community, okay? And, you know, I just heard this morning on the news that the Surgeon General's talking about putting a Surgeon General warning on social media for kids now.
Wow.
Similar to what they did with cigarettes. We are not even, I don't think we have even become fully aware of the impacts of certain things that our kids have experienced in the last 10 years. COVID, social media, violence. I think all these things are in our society right now, and people need resources. People need to understand, and organizations understand the impact. And organizations such as the Baby Fold are there to help do our part in bringing that awareness. And not just awareness, that's one thing, right? Public awareness, that's one thing. It's then, what do you do about it?
Yeah.
How can we share our gifts, our experiences, our expertise, and you know, it's all about then building that stronger, resilient family, which again, Sam shared. So strong families, strong family units are one of the ways that we can make the community better. And that's what our role is.
And like you said, it is evolving. And I saw a video recently about a mom at a store, and she was taking a TikTok video, making a video, and she was left her baby like alone, anyways, while she was doing this. And so someone confronted her about it or something like that. But just the world that we're in is evolving and changing, and those issues and those are changing. And so, yeah, we want it to be strong family units around in our community. And yeah, so I appreciate that.
One of the Baby Fold's pillars is trauma-informed care, or providing care through a trauma-informed lens. What that means is everyone has experienced trauma. You and I, all of us have experienced trauma. It goes to how Clete was saying, when we connect with the business community and provide supports for the business community, your ACEs score, adverse childhood score. If you are a child and your parents were divorced, that's trauma.
Right.
If you've been divorced, if you've experienced a car crash or an incident, anything, everyone has experienced trauma. Our children experience trauma, and as adults, we experience trauma. Now, again, if you think of 120 years ago, even 50 or less years ago, trauma-informed care, that wasn't a thing back then,
Sure.
okay? So it's another example of how our services evolve over time, and that is one of the pillars today. We make sure that we have these trauma-informed trainings, not just internally, but for the community and other resources as well, so that we are not only acknowledging we've experienced trauma, and that's okay, and you're going to have feelings about that, and you're allowed to feel those ways, but how do we respond to that in a appropriate manner, and how do you grow from that? One of the things we do is we teach our children self-coping mechanism, make it so that children, even if children are on the spectrum, they have resources. We're sitting here today and we all have water in front of us. That's one of the tools that are in your toolbox. I'll give you, your free hint or your free tip of the day, if there's any dads out there listening, is, I'll tell you what it is. Kids can't cry and drink at the same time. So if you have a meltdown going on, do you want some water? Do you need a glass of water? Do you need a cup of water? Because you can't try crying and drinking at the same time.
Doesn't work.
It's just not going to work. So I'm saying that's a really, really silly, simple example, but that's a resource. And so we teach our children
ways to regulate, self-regulation. And in the beginning, it's us being like, do you want some water, sweetie? Do you want a cup of water? Yeah.
But the children are learning, you're allowed to say, I need a cup of water, or I need a break, or depending on the child, I need to move into a different chair. We have what's called flexible seating. If I'm on a trampoline, or if I'm jumping up and down, or if I have a fidget spinner, I'm going to be able to focus more. So in the beginning, we are giving them options, but our children are learning. They can also ask us for options. And again, I know that we're treating children and families, but if you think of that same concept and think of that in the workplace, think of how there is absolutely room for improvement. Think of how better it could be. It's common at the baby fold, you'll go into a meeting and there'll be a basket of fidget spinners in the middle, because it's okay if you need a fidget, if you need to play with something with your hands so that you can focus better, then do so. Think of, we were walking through your beautiful facility here at Nussbaum, and you have sit and stand desk. So that way your employees can choose to sit or stand. You are allowing them, giving them techniques so that they can self-regulate. How are you going to work the best? We do that with adults, with that example of sit, stand, desk, but with children as well. How are you going to learn the best today? Do you need to be in a beanbag chair? Do you need to be on a bouncy seat? Do you need a fidget spinner? Just learning all those different self-regulation techniques, and that it's okay. Everyone learns differently, and we just need to tap into how each individual learns their own unique way.
Yeah, and I heard this, I don't know if it's right, but children who learn and know how to play turn out to be the most, like, more successful, like knowing how to regulate, and like play plays a role into that. Is that true?
I've not necessarily heard that, but certainly play is an expression of who you are, right? And it shows creativity, it shows thought, so I would imagine it's it's true, but kids that isolate certainly are have challenges. So I would think that a kid that is capable of playing and playing with others is going to have a different skill set that can lead to success and health.
Yeah, very interesting. This is a whole new world for me. I know nothing about parenting, so
someday.
Right.
When I think of play, what it makes me think of is a lot of times play is a child's first communication. The way that a child communicates is through play. So when we talk about the Baby Folds training and consultation services, one of the trainings that we provide it's called Thera-Play, and it is a therapy technique that uses play, because sometimes just verbal therapy, if as adults we think of what therapy is, that's not going to be necessarily as effective on a child. So when it comes to Thera-Play, you're learning how to communicate with this child the way that they communicate. Sometimes we're able to have a child express themselves when it comes to miniatures, and they're just setting that up, or you have a sand tray and they're learning and building in the sand tray. And if a child keeps gravitating to one specific form or one specific toy, maybe that's telling you something. So our therapists at the Baby Fold, they are so incredibly talented, because no matter what that child's communication style is, no matter how they communicate, our therapists still find a way to communicate with them. We have these sand trays. We have different ways to communicate in a miniature room where a child comes in and we're doing therapy, and that's the way that that child communicates, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So we've talked about who you are, who the Baby Fold is, what the Baby Fold is, and the services that's offered here. And now we've been talking about strong family units and why that's important. And as we wrap it up here, I'd be curious to hear a little bit about your story, Clete.
Sure.
And your adoption story, what that looked like, and if you could share that with
and
us.
I think it fits very well in terms of strong families, because as an adopted child, born in the mid-'60s.
Not saying when.
Adoption looked very different than it does today. They were closed. There was no communication between adoptive parents and the birth parents. It really was, okay, that part of your life no longer exists, right? That's tough on a child. It led me down some pretty tough years in my adolescence with that not knowing of who I am, which is also why I think I do. It's my why. It's why I do what I do, because so many of the kids that I have worked with over the years, I saw a lot of myself in them, especially kids in foster care. Okay. And while they know who their biological parents are, obviously their challenges existed. So I grew up pretty angry kid in my adolescent years. You think about all kinds of, was it me? Why was I given up? Was it something I did? Was I a product of love or lust? What was the deal, right? And those things really kind of hit you hard, right? And it wasn't until 1988 when I reunited with my birth mom here in Bloomington-Normal. Because I was adopted through an organization here in Bloomington-Normal that is not the Baby Fold, unfortunately. It was Catholic Social Service, which is now morphed into Center for Youth and Family Solutions. I was adopted through that organization at 5 days old. I was born in OSF Hospital in Peoria, St. Francis. And was given to my parents. I don't call them adoptive parents. I call them my parents because they raised me. They are my parents. And at 5 days old. So in 1988, I was working in the office in downtown Bloomington, and we had an adoption worker. And I said, what would it take to open my file? She said, well, probably a phone call over to our Peoria headquarters, and they'll pull your file out of the file cabinet. And sure enough, I said, well, let's do it. And then I get some information that's non-identifying, right? So I don't know who the lady is. I just know a little bit of history. And the question then becomes, do you want to search her? And I said yes. 2 phone calls later, the adoption worker actually talked to my birth mom, who was living in San Diego.
No way.
She's out in San Diego. And so what drove me to do this was, one, I had a lot of questions. I'm 22 now. I wanted to know a little bit more about my health history. Just think about it. You know, every time you go to the doctor, you're like, I don't know, I'm adopted. Because they always say, what's your family history? I don't know. But key is I asked my parents for their permission. We grew up always knowing, my sister and I, she's adopted too, we always grew up knowing we were adopted. Never really understood the gravity of that until our teenage years. And so we reunited in 1988 here in Bloomington-Normal. And I think probably what was significant for me is finding out that the reason she gave me up for adoption was to provide me a better life than what she could have provided to me. Which at that point, my life changed. It really changed. She was so happy to know that my parents gave me a life she could never have done. So she had her needs met. I found out that I was loved, and that's why she took the unselfish act or selfless act to give me up for adoption. And it's been a great experience. I mean, through it all, I've learned I have 7 half brothers and sisters.
Wow.
I've only met 3. She was just here in town about 6 weeks ago.
Wow, yeah.
My wife's adopted, so she knows her birth family, both birth father and birth mother. I've met my birth father, but only twice, and we have not maintained contact. I talk to my birth mother about maybe 4 or 5 times a year. We stay just, she's a friend. I carry her biological genes. She's not my mother. It's a story that really adds to my life and who I am as a person. I like to describe it like this, Dayton. Being adopted is like being an actor on a stage. You have a curtain behind you, right?
Yeah.
You never know what's behind the curtain. And so all you're doing is what you're doing, right? Center stage. That's your life. That's who you are. And it wasn't until I reunited with my birth mother and birth father that curtain opened. And then I began to realize all of who I am, not just who I presented to be. Now, I'm blessed. My parents gave me every opportunity in the world. They're great. Unfortunately, my father died about 12 years ago. Great people. I love them dearly. Was seeing my mom for her birthday this weekend. We're very close as a family.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine not having them as my parents. But it's made me whole as a person to understand the whole journey, if you will. And again, that's I think really what drives me to do this work, because there's part of that journey that I just shared with you that motivates me and wants me to help others find out who they are and live their lives knowing who they are and what they are.
Yeah, pulling that curtain back a little bit. So are you glad that you went through that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine not. Kind of a funny story. My birth mother and my wife's birth father lived within 10 miles of each other in the Orange County area in California. She was in Carlsbad and he was in Irvine.
Okay.
And so when we would go out there, we'd be able to see both of them.
Wow.
But then she moved down to Oceanside, so she's down in the San Diego area now. But it makes holidays really interesting around our house, and it made it really interesting with our 2 kids who really tried to understand. Well, those are your birth parents, and these are Grammy and Grandpa. And how's all this work? And holidays are pretty crazy, and so it's a good thing. It's a real good thing.
Yeah, and helping other people understand that too.
Yes,
is a passion for you.
I've spoken a lot about my journey with parents who are considering adoption, and just how it impacted me. Because now adoptions, you can choose to have an open adoption. So the birth parent remains part of the family even afterwards. I think that helps kids become better human beings by knowing that whole story than just not knowing, right?
Makes a lot of sense. Having that transparency would help.
Because you have some people, unlike Clete, who have gone through the process and who have finally gotten the courage to attempt to peek behind the curtain and to understand their full self and their full being by pursuing and trying to find out who their biological parents are, but that may not be successful. So with adoption, there are so many different possible outcomes. So it's really interesting, and it's so rewarding to hear Clete's story because that's a very, very amazing outcome. My mom is an example. She was adopted and she still has not been able to find her birth parents. So there's so many different outcomes, and when we can come together to make sure that it's a preferential outcome and everyone is getting the information they need, that's always the best.
Yeah, and having that support
exactly
to get through that. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I have another question on here, but I think we're getting pretty close on time. We've been doing really good. We shared a lot of great information.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed this. I put on here, what does the future of the baby fold look like? Is that something that you have on your radar?
Sure. I mean, I can speak fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So, what's on my mind is how we can engage earlier in families' lives, in children's lives, because we know from the research, the younger the child is, the sooner you can push into a home, the better outcomes you'll see downstream. We know that, for instance, a child that's 14 years old that we start to serve is much more difficult than starting at the time of birth, right? So really where our future lies is really on that early childhood prevention piece. That preventative work is really what is on my mind. Now, that doesn't discount the other areas like education. I see a lot of opportunity in the community schools area, but the key to the well-being of our community, our kids, our families, is really getting involved earlier than later. So how do we build capacity in that regard? Historically, funders don't like to fund prevention services, but I think they're finally waking up to the reality of it costs about 16 times more if you wait than if you don't, by getting involved much earlier. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
That makes a lot of sense, getting on that prevention side of things. And so there are a lot of ways that people can help out. You mentioned volunteering, donating. What are other ways that you would recommend people getting involved with the baby fold?
I would say the best way to get involved with the baby fold is create a relationship. Please reach out. No matter what has been placed on your heart for how you want to create that relationship with the baby fold, pick up the phone, send an email, send a text. We would love to connect with you. There are so many ways that you can support the baby fold and the impactful work we're doing. We have more children in foster care than ever before. So we always have children looking for a loving temporary home. So if God's put on your heart to consider foster care, that's something we can help you with. I understand not everyone is in that position.
Right.
So if you want to support us through your time, talents, or treasure, that is a wonderful support as well. Even if you just want to start off with taking the family to the Baby Fold's Festival of Trees, that supports the children and family that we're caring for as well. You can like, share, comment, engage on our social media platforms. And if you're like the Baby Fold's founder, Nancy Mason, and want to leave a lasting legacy, if you're thinking about what your legacy will look like when the time comes, the Baby Fold can help you out there too. No matter if you want to give a financial gift, if you want to support the Baby Fold through a financial blessing, no matter what that gift is, it makes an impact and it makes a difference. Because when you have an agency like the Baby Fold, we are proper stewards of every single gift and we maximize every gift that we get. So when I have a child come in who can give me maybe $4 and change from a bake sale they hosted or a lemonade stand, that's just as impactful as other donations. But no matter what, if you have an IRA, if you want to leave farmland, a vehicle, a home, a estate plan, the Baby Fold makes it so that however you want to be philanthropic, however you want to give to the Baby Fold and bless local kids and families, we're right here waiting to hear from you, and we're going to make sure it happens. So you can go to the babyfold.org, literally just spelled out. That's the babyfold.org. You can call us, come to our office. Me and my staff would be more than happy to meet with you and discuss how you want to make your impact. We can make that a reality.
That's cool. I don't have much, but I do have a cow. So I don't know if you'll take a cow, but
no matter what you want to give, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, you'll make it work.
I'll be bringing a cow around the playground now.
Yeah. And something I'm taking away from this podcast is the why, finding your why and what you're doing. For the people listening, that the day-to-day stuff, what you're doing, why are you doing it? And finding that why can really change what you're doing. And you both have a strong conviction for that. And so I appreciate you both for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Dayton.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And so be on the lookout for the Baby Fold and any upcoming events. And every year there's the Festival of Trees. That's a big event.
The weekend before Thanksgiving.
The weekend before Thanksgiving.
Always the weekend before Thanksgiving.
That's the number one question we get is, when is the Festival of Trees? I'll give you the little secret. It's always the weekend before Thanksgiving. You can mark your calendar.
Never changes.
That's right.
Okay. Very cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Thank you for
Honored to
having
do
us.
this. So, Clete, Sam, thank you. And thank you to our listeners for joining in today. And until next time, stay purpose-driven and own it every moment.
Hey everyone, this is Caleb from Nussbaum Recruiting, and I'd love to answer any questions you have about driving with us. Give us a call at 309-268-1199 or visit nussbaumjobs.com. Hope to talk to you soon. You've been listening to Terminal Exchange, the official podcast of Nussbaum Transportation. If you're enjoying our content, please leave us a review. Your reviews help us spread the word about these important topics and invite more people into the conversation. You can rate and review us on your podcast app or visit us online at terminalexchange.org. New episodes arrive every other Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow Nussbaum on your favorite social media platforms and be the first to know when new episodes are released. Thanks for listening. Until next time, own every moment and stay purpose-driven.